thrown them away because they were smelly and dry. And my mom came home and I had left, and she opened the trash can and saw the flowers and thought, oh my God, they must have gotten in a fight. And she called me and told me how when her and my father used to get into fights, she would set his letters on fire. And so she was really worried that something had happened, when we fought and we broken up. And so what I love about my mother is how fiercely loyal and protective she is of her family. The other mother I would like to talk about is my mother-in-law, who passed away 2 weeks after we got engaged. She was the most selfless woman that I've ever met. She always took care of her husband and her son and raised one of the most amazing men that this world could ever find.
Wow, that's really hardball.
Good thing we like women who cry. Look out in this audience, everyone's crying.
Well, my mom was a school teacher, and she said, never give up on anyone and anything. And that's what I'm going to talk to my mom.
So I guess to follow that, I have to tribute my mother, who was a politician, and I was completely apolitical until George Bush Jr. got elected. And all of a sudden I became very political, and had a real feel on this. And just another two personal asides is my son interned in D.C. 2 summers ago, and I started to understand the political process of this, of how the country is run, how the world politics are run, how the U.S. sort of gets its arms into everything and controls a lot of what goes on, or doesn't, as the case may be. And number three, a personal aside is that I'm married to a very powerful, personally powerful, but former Goldman Sachs partner, which gives me a financial perspective on what's going on. And
former
so,
partner or former marriage?
He's currently my husband, and he is a retired partner. And I'm listening to these stories, I'm listening to these stories, and I'm hearing from many of you stories that, if you were men that were sitting here, would cause you to say, God, I hate those people. I really want to kill them. And instead, your reaction is completely different. And we were supporters of an organization called the Hunger Project, which takes that perspective is that men are, from their perspective in terms of hunger, is men are going to, women will starve to feed their children, men will kill to feed themselves. And I'm paraphrasing, but it's sort of the sentiment. And the same thing applies to war, is that women will put themselves between their children and a bullet. And men will go out and get a gun to protect their children. It's a whole different mindset, it's a whole different perspective. Also, while I'm listening to this, and Alma, what you said particularly strikes home is the need for women in leadership positions, and for the world to understand the process of conflict resolution, how key that is to it. But I guess, again, feeding back to the financial thing is a lot of the reason that there are wars comes down to economics, comes down to territorialism and to controlling resources. And if Code Pink, or if any of you have an insight on either a local or global level, whether how women can grab on to, or maybe it's like reprogramming, cause men to evolve, which is a great term, as I always say that, beyond that territorialism, and realize that the biggest asset that we all have is our children.
Who are you?
Amy Lissenberger, my best friend Amy Ferris just wrote a book that you have to buy.
You don't have to do that. Amy Litzenberger.
Can I tackle the question on a couple of levels?
Yes.
First of all, I heard you talk about the victim. And I also heard you talk about the perpetrator. And what we are trying to understand is that the perpetrator is also a victim. And I can tell you when Gaza was taking place, all my theory and analysis went out of the door. So I have to confess that it's easier said than done. But I don't necessarily agree that women are more peaceful than men. Because if you grew up in a culture where you have learned retaliation and you have been told stories that you have to get the other person, and your religion told you that your religion is much better than other people's religion, and you were told that your class is more superior, you could practice violence, you don't have to kill people, but you could actually exclude them, you could marginalize them, you could dismiss them, or like Lydia said, we can also be patronizing. We can actually go and tell people how good we are and we're there to help them versus asking them to help us, because we have a lot of problems here. And so the understanding that you're a victim and you are partners in the solution is a very important concept, but a very hard concept to actually work on. So I'll leave it there and we'll keep watching what Code Pink does, but I would say invite people that you really don't think very highly of, because you need them for the solution. So that's an equation that's hard to apply. So that's one side. The other thing is you spoke about the finances and the economics of war. And today I was actually quite disturbed that there was a couple of experts on NPR. They were asked about the war in Pakistan, not Congo, unfortunately. I know enough about Congo that it's actually devastating to see the exploitation of men and women, because the men who are, they'll never recover. The same way, like May was saying, the Israeli soldier who perpetrated in Gaza will never recover. And so he's also a victim of what took place. So it's very important to think the economy of war is something that we are not really able to analyze, because I've been trying to understand it, and we don't know where all these people are that are putting all these weapons together. We know it's a system, but how to work that system has been challenging. Also, one of the things that is hard to understand is if you ask them to leave that kind of livelihood, for lack of a better word, if this is how it makes meaning for them to feel good about themselves, you have to offer them an alternative. So you can't just ask people in the military to stop being engaged in the military, you have to give them alternatives. And we really don't have a lot of answers yet, but I think that's why society has to change. And I think that's what you realize through your life experiences.
Well, wait.
So it's a very long answer.